Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ken Reed and I am a counselling student looking to become a relationship counsellor for gay men. And this channel is all about helping gay men achieve better relationships with others, but most importantly, themselves. And speaking of improving better relationships with ourselves, this topic is all about loneliness within the gay community. What loneliness is, and also my tips on how we can work through our loneliness and cure it. So the inspiration for this episode came from a fantastic Huffington Post article, which I'll link in the description of this video, called Together Alone, The Epidemic of Gay Loneliness by Michael Hobbs. Now, basically, to summarize, Hobbs talks about how gay loneliness essentially stems from a variety of things, from the feeling of not being understood at the start of when we're figuring out our gender, not really being able to connect with people within the gay community when we come out, and the frustration that comes with that too, because as I've mentioned in previous episodes, we think that, we've found our tribe when we come out, but really there's a lot more work to it than that, which, to be honest, every single human being on the planet goes through. So, as part of the process of when we come out, we're also working through a lot of other challenges too. There's the addiction of sex, there's the drugs, there's the clubbing, there's a whole myriad of things. And they're all trying to cure our loneliness. But what they're really doing is delaying our real acceptance of what loneliness is and how we can work through it. The problem with loneliness within our community is that it does cause a higher amount of health issues, depression and suicide compared to other communities of different genders. So let's talk about loneliness. My definition of loneliness is not you're just physically alone with no one around you. No, my definition of loneliness is it is the absence of companionship and also the lack of emotional validation. So what I mean by this is that within us, as social creatures, as human beings are, we do need to have people around us to interact with. We thrive off that. That's energy. However, often at times, combined with the expectation that we should be in these harmonious, beautiful relationships that are loving and have the happily ever after, we tend to confuse that narrative with curing loneliness, which is not the case at all. So let's talk about loneliness and how we can work through this. So, in terms of my ideas for how we can work through loneliness, I'll start with this one, which is to say that it's important to have good friends. Now, in my opinion, a good friend is someone who's there to support you, understand you, and also be there for you when you need them. And I'm not talking about someone who sees you every day. I just mean that if you're having a hard time, that person's there and available to you. And to complement this, I think it was Tony Robbins who said that we are the sum of the 4 or 5 closest people around us. Now that can include friends, lovers, and family. But since we tend to have an abundance of friends over family or lovers, it's important to recognize that the people we spend the most amount of time with are the ones who define who we are, our interests, what we like, what we want to achieve in our world, and the support we receive as well. So I suggest friends because it's something that we can cultivate continuously, which is really important. And that leads me on to point number 2, emotional validation. What is that? Emotional validation, in an example, would be you've just come home from work and you've had a bad day. You've had a bad day, your boss has been really difficult, and your partner or your friend tells you, well, that's clearly got something to do with you. You're not working hard enough. You aren't doing right by your boss. You've probably heard that before from someone, and personally, I don't really like being told that. What I prefer is being told, I'm sorry, that sounds really difficult. I may not understand what you're going through, but I can imagine that it's quite challenging for you. The reason is that for a lot of us, if we're in a state where we're quite emotional, having that validation of our emotional feelings is so important for us. And it also helps the loneliness aspect too, because if we're alone physically and no one else is with us and we're going through challenges, we want people to understand, or at the very least, recognize the pain that we're going through, because that helps us move beyond it. That's why therapy is so effective. And point number 3, please do not date when you're lonely. Being lonely has caused so many dating challenges and problems for people, I cannot even count them all. The reason this is so problematic is because what loneliness causes a lot of people to do is to basically allow people into their lives when they're not feeling perhaps as strong, they don't have a foundation of friends in their lives, and they're looking for that companionship with another person because it makes them feel better about themselves. I think one of the classic examples of people getting into bad situations out of loneliness would definitely be if you, for example, have, say, put yourself into a foreign environment and you don't know anyone, you don't have any friends, you're going through some struggles, and someone comes into your life, shines a light upon you, and next minute you find yourself in a very challenging relationship because you feel like you need them in order to get through your day, but really they're not a good fit for you in terms of who you are. So that's a challenge. So point number 4 is actually learn to treat yourself like the lover of your dreams. And to do that, you need to start with really taking some time for yourself. Be alone, go into a park every now and then, find that alone time and start questioning yourself. Ask yourself things, find out what you don't like about yourself. Really address that, because when you start to address that, you then begin to unravel some of the things that you thought were true, that you needed to aspire to, and recognize that you do not need to paint this beautiful painting, this picture of who you'd like the world to see, and recognize that you are fine just as you are. You do not need to have anything else to make you great. A great way to ask yourself this question is to think about what you've built, whether it be a great body, you have a great car, great job, you have an amazing Instagram following. Ask yourself, who would you be if you did not have those assets? And then start to work through that to figure out who you are. Finally, point number 5, this whole concept of dying alone is fear. You're not going to die alone, you've got yourself. You're with yourself for life. I know it's cliche, and I know it's corny, but trust me, when you start coming to yourself to work through your own internal challenges, that's when the magic starts to happen and you feel sustainably happier on a regular basis. The value of spending that alone time is that it not only addresses the fear of being alone, but it also makes you realize too that you don't need to have someone in your life in order to make you happy. You figure out things that you actually want to do for yourself that make you happy on a regular basis. So those are my 5 tips on how to cure loneliness if you're a gay man. Some of those tips may even apply even if you're not gay. I think that loneliness is a very insidious thing that a lot of us go through, and it's something that we all need to work from, so that way we don't end up in situations where we end up feeling even more alone within a relationship or having friends or a family who simply can't emotionally validate us and give us that companionship we need for ourselves. So, thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe, and I look forward to continuing this in our next episode next week.